When I scroll through the list of essays by Bhikkhu Bodhi, I found this one written in 1998 about growing terrorism back then in Sri Lanka. So it could be relevant because of the current ongoing war. So let's take a look and see what Bhikkhu Bodhi has to say. A statement of conscience. Is it conscience or conscience? Let's double check.
Conscience.
Conscience. Conscience means a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. Another word would be sense of right and wrong or moral sense. All beings tremble at the rod, says the Buddha. Yet today, the ominous rod of terrorism has become one of the gravest problems that we face. No longer is the terrorist threat reserved for the vulnerable public figure or the outspoken adversary. With the lightning speed and global reach, our modern media of communication have given the terrorists a tremendous new power to intimidate whole populations. Far too often, the victims of their hits are the helpless and innocent, struck down in a symbolic show of hate. Okay, let's define the word ominous.
Ominous.
Giving the worrying impression that something bad is going to happen, threateningly inauspicious. Other word would be threatening and menacing. And the threatening rod of terrorism is one of the gravest problem that we face. Okay, let's continue reading. Sister Lintoy, would you like to read?
This appalling increase in terrorist violence pierces the moral consciousness at its core, leaving behind painful and persisting wounds. For those of us who reside in Sri Lanka, the problem becomes ever more acute as we witness the tide of terrorism sweep across this traditional homeland of the Dhamma. It is no longer possible for us to immerse ourselves in the comfortable routines of our familiar world. Instead, we must struggle in anguish and hope to deal with this frightful menace in our midst. To understand it and to confront it in a manner worthy of our Buddhist heritage.
Thanks, Sister Lintoy. So this problem has been happening across Sri Lanka, the traditional homeland of the Dhamma. So usually we think of a Buddhist country, yeah, maybe we have the image of Buddhist country being peaceful, being always, being a Buddhist country, having the Dhamma. We would probably thought, oh, this country must be peaceful. But if you take a look, even in Sri Lanka, there is a still sweep of terrorism, tide of terrorism. And recently, if you recall, even countries like Myanmar, there is a lot of violence going on, as a Buddhist country. And of course, that makes, at least that makes me especially sad, knowing that even some Buddhist countries that should be a symbol of peace can have this growing threat of violence. Let's continue reading. Sister Aikim, would you like to read?
It cannot be disputed that the worldwide rise of terrorism springs from complex causes of a political, economic, and social character, which must be tackled by any adequate solution to the problem. At the same time, however, we have to insist that terrorism also has a deeper underlying human dimension that can only be ignored at our peril. If we probe beneath the burning issues of political ideology and ethnic grievances around which the terrorist forces rally, we will discover at its epicenter those same malignant drives that, in less virulent form, motivate so much ordinary human conduct.
Thanks, Sister Aikim. Okay, firstly, Bhikkhu Bodhi acknowledged that terrorism can have many complex causes, can be political, economic, and social, which should also be tackled by any solution available to the problem. But Bhikkhu Bodhi also pointed out there could be, or at least according to Buddhism, there is some underlying cause, some underlying root cause, underlying human dimension that can only be ignored at our peril. If we probe beyond the surface, beyond the burning issues of political ideology, which is much discussed today, we will discover at its core, at its epicenter, those same malignant drives that in less virulent form motivate so much ordinary human conduct. Let's define malignant here. Malignant definition. Evil in nature or effect, malevolent, spiteful, hostile, malevolent, malicious. And the same malicious drives. What are those drives? Let's read on to find out. Sister Billy, would you like to read?
As the vital dynamism from which terrorism springs, we will find greed, a rapacious lust for power and domination. We will find hate smoldering within as cold resentment or whipped up into a frenzy of destruction. And we will find delusion, a collective paranoia instilled by inflammatory ideologies or the blind submergence of the individual in the group. These are the hidden human roots of terrorism. Fed by personal frustration and social discontent, they yield as their fruits the violence that surrounds us.
Thanks, Sister Billy. In the Buddhism, we come back again to the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusions. Firstly, greed, rapacious. Let's define rapacious here. The first time I see this word as well. Aggressively greedy or grasping. Grasping, greedy, avaricious, acquisitive, or covetous. We find greed, a rapacious lust for power and domination. You will see this a common theme in any politics. It's all about power. It's all about domination. People want to be in control. And then, secondly, we will find hate, smoldering within as cold resentment, whip up into a frenzy of destruction. Lastly, delusion, a collective paranoia instilled by inflammatory ideologies or the blind submergence of the individual in the group. These, according to Buddhism, are the hidden human roots of terrorism. Fed by personal frustration and social discontent, they yield as the fruits the violence that surrounds us. So whatever we see in the news, whatever that has happened, were actually the fruits. The fruits of what? The fruits of these three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. Let's continue reading. Sister Singhui, would you like to read?
As we grapple with the problem of terrorism, asking ourselves what we can contribute to stem its rising tide, we may find an answer closer to home than we imagine. Let us first note that the spread of terrorism is not so much a macabre deviation from prevailing norms as an extreme manifestation of the whole-scale decline in human fellow feeling. This lack of empathy and sensitivity to others can already be discerned in the everyday functioning of society, and the spreading disease of corruption, apathy, and selfishness infecting the social organism. Adding to this, a frantic search for a sense of belonging through the rediscovery of ethnic roots, and the result is a potentially very explosive mixture.
Thanks, Sister Singhui. Okay, let's define this word here. Macabre. I think I've never seen this word too.
Macabre.
Macabre. Okay. Disturbing because concerned with or causing a fear of death. Gruesome, grisly, grim, gory, morbid. So, see, a gruesome deviation from prevailing norms. Yeah. So when we probe what is the problem, what is the cause, we may find some answer that close to heart, close to home. Let us first know that the spread of terrorism is not so much a gruesome deviation from prevailing norms as an extreme manifestation of a wholesale decline in the human fellow feeling, but it started off much closer to home. This lack of empathy and sensitivity to others can already be discerned in the everyday functioning of society. In the spreading disease of corruption, apathy, and selflessness infecting the social organism. As a society, if we grow more selfish, if we grow more apathy day by day, this is how it eventually snowball accumulates into the form as we know of, as we call terrorism. Add to this a frantic search. Okay, let's take a look at frantic. Distraught with fear, anxiety, or other emotion. Panic-stricken. Conducted in a hurried, excited, and disorganized way. A panic-stricken search for a sense of belonging through the rediscovery of ethnic roots, and the result is a potentially very explosive mixture. What does this exactly mean? This is when we find that our race, when we think that our race is superior to others, then the result could be devastating. Potentially very explosive mixture. I will continue reading the next paragraph. If this much is recognized, we may then see that one of the most effective countermeasures we can apply in our individual capacity against the growth of terrorism lies very much within our reach. Simply put, it consists in reaffirming to ourselves and teaching by precept and by example those fundamental ethical values upon which a harmonious and peaceful society is founded. This reaffirmation of genuine moral values of compassion, honesty, truthfulness, tolerance, and respect for others will sound a thunderous statement of conscience. Whether made audibly or privately to oneself, it will raise a note of protest against the moral negligence from which terrorism draws its sustenance, acclaiming our confidence in the power of the good. Yeah, we might think that we are helpless to stop the ongoing war or the growing threat of terrorism, but the text reaffirms us. If we do our part, if we reaffirm ourselves, if we, by precept, by example, those fundamental ethical values upon which a harmonious and peaceful society is founded, if we reaffirm those in ourselves, then we have, Bhikkhu Bodhi mentioned here, we will have sound a thunderous statement of conscience. It will raise a note of protest against the moral negligence that we see in the news, from which terrorism draws its sustenance. Let's define sustenance here. Food and drink regarded as a source of strength, nourishment, the maintaining of someone or something in life or existence. One, two, okay, we have two more paragraphs. Let's finish reading. Back to Sister Lin Tai, would you like to read?
While we should not cherish unrealistic expectations about our ability to reshape the world, we also should not lose sight of our responsibility to counter prevalent trends. Nor should we discount our ability to make an impact. The clear and decisive commitment to ethical values has a quiet potency that can effect important changes, both outwardly and inwardly. While subtly altering the interpersonal aspects of our lives, within our hearts, it will fortify those two mental factors that the Buddha called the guardians of the world, shame and moral dread. The former, the innate repugnance toward evil. The latter, the fear of its consequences.
Thanks, Sister Lin Tai. Yeah, we shouldn't have unrealistic expectations about our ability to reshape the world. Why? Because I think most of us would want to stop the war, but of course we are unable to do it. But we also should not lose sight of our own responsibility to counter the trends. And we shouldn't also discount our ability to make an impact. How? The clear and decisive commitment to ethical values has a quiet potency that can effect important changes, both outwardly and inwardly. While subtly altering the external factors, the interpersonal aspects of our lives, within our own hearts, it will fortify two mental factors that the Buddha called guardians of the world. The first one is the shame, and second one is the moral dread. The shame is the former, the innate repugnance towards evil, the latter, the fear of the consequences. And last paragraph to conclude. Sister Aikim, would you like to read?
Above all, we must reaffirm the need to rise above the limiting perspectives of the self-centered point of view, in which so many today have become entrenched, recognizing that every community and the world as a whole is ultimately harmed by the struggle of each faction to secure its individual ends. We must stand up for the development of a sense of humane responsibilities that will transcend divisive loyalties. The lesson that we must learn and teach is that embedded in the ancient maximum taught by the Buddha, considering others as oneself. Do not hurt them or cause them harm. To recognize others as being essentially the same as oneself and to feel their wish for happiness as one's own. This is the only effective means we can propose to build the peaceful society for which we yearn.
Okay, thanks, Sister Hakim. With that, we conclude this essay. And if there's one takeaway, I think I would refer back to this sentence. Simply put, the way we can stem the growing trend of violence and terrorism consists in reaffirming to ourselves, teaching by precept and by example, fundamental ethical values upon which a harmonious and peaceful society is founded. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, did I forget to ask Sister Billy to read today? Did you read?
Was I referring to me?
Yeah, did you read a paragraph?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Okay, since you're talking, just want to quickly summarize my 3 ticks from this this article. One is he pointed out that we all have defilements, the basic defilements: hatred, greed, hatred, and delusion. So that actually drives all the problems of our human being. So we can actually start with ourselves. And how to do that is by practicing precepts, right? To have self-discipline and all the other good values. So he said that we all can start with ourselves, because we can't change the world, but we can do it ourselves to help ourselves internally and also have a positive influence to the external world. That's my take from this article.
Yeah, thanks for adding on. Yeah. I thought I missed you when I go around.
Oh no, you did. I read one once. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Sister Linda, you raise your hand, is it?
Yes, I think, this text is very meaningful. And I remember I listened to one of the Dharma teachers. He explains the Buddhism flag, the flag of Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way that he explained it. So he said that, there are 5 colors in the flag, right? And then, so he explained that the 5 colors represent the 5 continents, and also it represents the 5 precepts. So he said that if the 5 precepts are taught and practiced among all the 5 continents, there wouldn't be any wars at all. Yeah, so I think it is very related to here to the text that we have just read. I think, if the 5 precepts are taught in schools, then all the kids will grow and behave very well, and there wouldn't be any wars at all. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Thanks for adding on. Yeah, that's so true. Shifu mentioned, don't underestimate the power of the precepts. If the whole world just observe the precept just for one day, imagine how peaceful the world would be just for one day. So that's very true. Thanks for sharing, Sister Lin Tai. Okay, anyone else would like to share or adding on? If not, let's do a dedication. 愿孝善长煮饭的，愿得智慧真明了，普愿罪障细消除，时世常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we again, may we be guided by the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a conscientious Thursday ahead. Thanks everyone for participating, and see you guys next time.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.